So the book I chose to report on is called Automating Inequality by Virginia Eubanks. The book begins by Virginia's boyfriend being nearly beaten to death, and while Virginia is taking care of her boyfriend, her insurance stops working, and in order to reinstate her insurance, which her boyfriend is on, Virginia has to spend hours on the phone and making dozens of phone calls just to fix a technical error on the insurance company's part. And after this algorithmic glitch, Virginia went out to investigate how algorithms in healthcare and social programs actually stigmatize, disadvantage, and categorize the poor. And to do this, Virginia visits rural Indiana, South Los Angeles, and Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, to see how data analytics actually harms the poor instead of helping them. So my first example of how this book relates to analytics starts with Virginia's first investigation in Indiana. So lower class and working class citizens were required to use a governmental database system in order to file for Medicaid, TANF, and SNAP, and other types of stuff like that. So citizens would usually call this automated system and spend hours on the phone, or they would go to their local library and spend hours at the library filling out forms. And even after all this busy work, this wouldn't give the citizens the assistance that they needed, because the system would send false appeals to its clients, so the system would start to defect. And Virginia noted that many families would get letters in the mail denying their assistance just because the system would mess up on evaluating their claims. And it wasn't until the governor of Indiana at the time, Mitch Daniels, it was until he wanted to potentially run for president that made him admit, like, yes, the system is a bust. It failed many of the citizens of Indiana and all that stuff. And not only was the system a failure just by itself, but it also made people realize, like, you really need social workers in order to help, like, disadvantaged people, and you can't just have a system just strictly do it for you. So this brings me to my second example of how Virginia investigates homelessness in South Los Angeles. So in order for homeless people to seek public housing, they would have to fill out this survey called the VISPDAT, which stands for Vulnerability Index Service Prioritization Decision Assistance Tool, which asked extremely revealing and personal questions about the people that were filling out this form. And after filling out this form, the system would basically rank their trauma and just assess, like, how much they need the assistance, and they would do that by ranking their trauma and mental health, and they would do this on a scale of 1 to 17. So the system would basically decide what is best for LA's homeless, and they would do this without the input of the actual people and just go off of these ranks. And a few of the homeless people in Los Angeles found the system dehumanizing, and they would rather not use it at all and preserve their dignity than use the system and possibly gain the chance to have housing. So this brings me to my last example of how Virginia visits Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, and she investigated how this county forecasted abused and neglected children using a predictive risk model. And this model was called the ASFT, and this stands for Allegheny Family Screening Tool. With this tool, children who seemed to be abused or neglected had their information put in a system where their situation was ranked from 1 to 20. So this system, like the other two that were mentioned before, was also faulty by misranking children and disallowing parents to see or even keep their kids. And on the other side of the coin, this system would misrank kids and leave them in environments that would lead to serious danger. So, similar to the LA situation, the system thought they knew what was best for each family without securing the important details from the children and their parents. So, my favorite part of the book was when Virginia was in Los Angeles and she came across this lady named Monique. And after like months of being homeless, Monique filled out the survey. And even though she never found out her results, a couple months later, after taking the survey, she gained public housing, and this kind of allowed her to get her life back together. It allowed her to maintain sobriety and take care of her mental and physical health, and this eventually led her to be a consistent factor in her children's lives. And I think that Monique's rare case of the system working in her favor, it just shows us that, like, even though things might not work our way most of the time, actually, it never hurts to just keep a little faith. So that was my book report. I hope you guys learned something. Thank you for watching.